Dr. Han Dawei stared at his computer screen, his hands shaking as he translated the alien message. It was 3 a.m. at the Korean Space Agency, and the building buzzed with nervous energy. Coffee cups littered his desk, but no one felt tired anymore. Not after what had appeared in Earth's skies 6 hours ago. The massive ship hung above Earth like a silver leaf, beautiful and terrifying. Its first transmission had taken only minutes to arrive, but understanding it had taken hours. As Earth's top xenolinguist, Dawei had worked non-stop to crack the alien language pattern. Dr. Han. His assistant ran into the room, nearly knocking over a chair. The American team sent their translation. Should we compare it with ours? Dawei shook his head. No need. His voice was quiet but firm. I've finished. Call the director. Everyone needs to hear this. 20 minutes later, Director Choi and 30 other scientists crowded into the main conference room. The air felt heavy with hope and fear. Dawei connected his tablet to the main screen, his translation displayed in clear text. The message, he began, is from something called the Galactic Council. He paused, looking at the eager faces around him. Some were smiling, expecting good news. His heart felt heavy. They're not here to welcome us. The room went silent. Director Choi leaned forward. What do you mean? Dawei touched the screen, highlighting key parts of the message. They say humanity is too unpredictable, too volatile. His throat felt dry. They've been watching us for decades. They've decided Earth must remain isolated. Isolated? Someone asked. For how long? Until we prove ourselves worthy, Dawei answered, or until we destroy ourselves. They don't seem to care which happens first. The room erupted in angry voices. Director Choi raised her hand for silence. There must be more. A way to appeal, to prove ourselves now. Dawei scrolled through the message. They've placed warning beacons throughout our solar system. We're forbidden to travel beyond Mars. Any human ships trying to pass that boundary will be. He swallowed hard, removed. They can't do this. A young scientist shouted. We've done nothing wrong. They already have, Dawei said. He pointed to the window, where the alien ship was visible in the dawn sky. As they watched, it began to move away, picking up speed until it was just another dot among the stars. Director Choi stood up, her face set in determination. Send this translation to every space agency on Earth. Then get me the president on the line. She looked around the room. The galaxy may have turned its back on us, but we're not done. Not by a long shot. Dawei nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. In the message, buried between threats and warnings, he'd noticed something interesting. Something the Council seemed afraid of. They hadn't isolated Earth because humanity was too violent or too primitive. They'd done it because humans were too willing to help others, too ready to extend a hand to strangers, too unpredictable in their kindness. As he walked back to his office, Dawei smiled for the first time since the ship appeared. The Council had made a big mistake. They thought isolation would break humanity's spirit. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Captain Kim Soo-jae couldn't sleep. The Phoenix, Earth's most advanced spaceship, hung in orbit around Jupiter. They weren't supposed to be here. The warning beacons of the Galactic Council glowed red in the distance, marking the forbidden zone beyond Mars. Captain. Park Jin's voice came through the ship's comm system. You need to see this. Soo-jae pushed away from her cabin window and headed to the bridge. The Phoenix was officially a research vessel, studying Jupiter's moons. At least, that's what the paperwork said. In reality, they were testing how close they could get to the Council's beacons without being noticed. The bridge was dark except for the glow of screens. Park Jin, her chief engineer, pointed to a blinking light on his display. It's not one of ours, he said, and it's definitely not the Council's. Soo-jae leaned closer. The signal was weak but steady. A distress beacon. Yes. Jin brought up more data. It's coming from behind Europa. Whatever it is, it's trying to hide. Suji thought about the Council's threats. Any human ship caught helping aliens would be destroyed. Those were the rules. She looked at her crew, 5 of Earth's best, all volunteers. They knew the risks. "How long until the next beacon scan?" she asked. Lee Yuna, their medical officer, checked her screen. 40 minutes. We could reach the signal in 20. Sujai remembered the day the Council left Earth. She'd been a student then, watching the sky with millions of others. The anger, the shame, the determination to prove them wrong. It all came rushing back. "Plot a course," she ordered. "But keep us in Europa's shadow." The Phoenix moved silently through space. As they got closer, their sensors picked up more details. It was a ship, but barely. Its hull was cracked, its engines dead. It looked like it had traveled a very long way. "Life signs?" Suji asked. Yuna nodded. "At least 30. Very weak." They found the ship tucked against Europa's icy surface. It was smaller than the Phoenix, its design unlike anything in Earth's databases. Frozen gas leaked from its wounds into space. "They're dying," Yuna said softly. "Their life support is almost gone." Sujai stood up. The Council's warnings rang in her head, but another voice was louder, her grandmother's voice, teaching her an old Korean saying. "A person's worth is not in how they help themselves, but in how they help others." "Prepare the rescue pods," she ordered. "Jin, can you mask our signal?" "For about 10 minutes, he said. "After that, the beacons will notice us." Sujai looked at her crew. No one spoke, but their faces showed the same determination she felt. Earth had been rejected by the galaxy, but that didn't change who they were. It didn't change what was right. 10 minutes it is," she said. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity really stands for." As the rescue pods launched, Suji thought about what would happen next. The Council would be angry. Earth's governments would be angry. But 30 lives were about to be saved, and that made it all worth it. Sometimes, she thought, the best way to prove someone wrong was to do exactly what they feared you would do. The Phoenix moved closer to the damaged ship, lights blazing in the darkness of space. They had 10 minutes to commit an act of kindness that could start a war. Suji smiled. She couldn't think of a better reason to risk everything. 8 minutes left. Park Jin called out as the rescue pods reached the damaged ship. Captain Suji watched from the Phoenix's bridge, her heart beating fast. The alien ship looked worse up close. Its metal skin was bent and broken, like a wounded animal. Lee Yuna's voice crackled over the radio. She was in the first rescue pod. "I can see them through the windows," she said. "There they look almost human, but their skin is pale blue." "Can you get inside?" Suji asked. "Yes, their airlock still works." There was a pause. "I'm going in." The next few minutes were tense. Suji watched the timer counting down. 7 minutes. 6 minutes. The Council's warning beacons kept blinking in the distance, like red eyes watching them. "They're called the Mori," Yuna reported. "They're refugees. Their star was dying, and they asked the Council for help. But," her voice was angry, "the Council said their civilization was too primitive to save." Suji clenched her fists. It was the same thing the Council had done to Earth. "How many can we save?" 32, Yuna said. "Mostly families. Some are very young." 4 minutes, Jin warned. The rescue pods started returning to the Phoenix, carrying their precious cargo. Suji went down to the cargo bay to meet them. The door opened, and she saw the Mori for the first time. They were tall and thin, with large eyes that seemed full of sadness. A small child held tight to her mother's hand, staring at Suji with wonder. None of them spoke, but their faces showed a mix of fear and hope. "Welcome," Suji said, even though they couldn't understand her yet. She touched her hand to her heart, and after a moment, they copied her gesture. 2 minutes. Jin's voice echoed through the ship. The last pod was still out there. Sujai ran back to the bridge. "Yuna, where are you?" "Almost there," Yuna answered. There's one more. An old man. He wouldn't leave his books behind. 1 minute. The final pod slid into the Phoenix just as the timer hit 30 seconds. Suji didn't wait. Get us out of here. Full speed. The Phoenix turned and raced away from Europa, pushing its engines to their limit. Behind them, the warning beacons started flashing faster. Council ships detected, Jin shouted, coming from behind Mars. But they were ready. The Phoenix dove into the shadow of Jupiter's largest moon, using its gravity to sling them toward Mars. Jin had prepared special shields that hid their engine heat. To the Council's ships, they would look like just another piece of space rock. Later, when they were safe, Suji visited their passengers in the cargo bay. Yuna was there, trying to talk with them using simple gestures. The old man she had waited for sat surrounded by his books, thin sheets of metal that glowed with strange writing. They're their history, Yuna explained. Everything about their civilization, their culture. He wouldn't let it be lost. Suji watched as the Mori children played with some Earth toys her crew had given them. They were already smiling, already healing. Sometimes the biggest acts of rebellion weren't fought with weapons, but with kindness. Send a message to Earth, she told Jin. Tell them we're coming home. And we're not coming alone. The Phoenix sailed through space, carrying a precious cargo of lives, hopes, and dreams. They had broken the Council's laws, but they had kept humanity's most important rule: never turn your back on those in need. Dr. Han Dawai stood in front of the United Nations Emergency Council, his hand steady but his mouth dry. The room was packed with leaders from every country on Earth. On the screen behind him, a photo showed the Mori refugees currently in quarantine at the Korean Space Agency. The Phoenix broke the Council's laws, a Russian delegate said. They could punish all of Earth for this. Daewoo nodded. Yes, but Captain Kim made the right choice. He looked around the room. I spent 3 days talking with the Mori. Their story is our story. He pressed a button, and new images appeared on the screen. The Mori's dying star, their plea to the Galactic Council, the rejection that forced them to flee. The Council told them they were too primitive to save, Daewoo said. Just like they told us we were too unpredictable to join them. An American delegate stood up. What happens when the Council discovers we helped them? They could destroy Earth. No, Daewoo said firmly. They won't, because we have something they don't expect. He smiled. We have proof they're wrong about us. He played a video from the quarantine area. It showed Earth children teaching Mori children to play soccer. Another clip showed Mori adults learning Korean and English, laughing at their mistakes. A third showed human doctors working with Mori healers, sharing knowledge. Look at this, Daewoo said. In 3 days, we've learned more about space medicine than we have in 30 years. The Mori know things about gravity and space travel that we never imagined. And we're teaching them too. This is what happens when we work together. The room was quiet. Then the delegate from Kenya spoke up. How many other species has the Council abandoned? She asked. How many others are out there, alone like we were? That's the real question, Daewoo said. And that's our real choice. Do we hide these refugees and apologize to the Council, or do we stand up and show the galaxy a better way? The Brazilian delegate raised his hand. The Mori ship is full of advanced technology. If we help them, could they help us build better ships, better defenses? They already want to, Daewoo answered. Not to fight, but to rescue others. They say there are more out there, more abandoned species, more people who need help. The room burst into discussion. Daewoo waited. Finally, the Secretary General called for a vote. All in favor of granting the Mori refugees full protection and asylum on Earth, raise your hands. Daewoo held his breath. Slowly, hands began to rise. First a few, then more, then almost every hand in the room was up. It's decided then, the Secretary General said. We will help the Mori, whatever the consequences. As Daewoo left the UN building, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Captain Kim Suji. More signals detected. 3 more refugee ships hiding in the Kuiper Belt. All from different species, all rejected by the Council. Daewei smiled as he typed his reply. Tell them help is coming. Tell them Earth's doors are open. The Council had tried to isolate humanity to keep them weak. Instead, they had shown them their greatest strength, the power to choose kindness over fear, hope over isolation, and courage over comfort. Earth was no longer alone in the galaxy. And soon, no one else would be either. Nan Hyo looked out the window of the new Seoul Integration Center at the garden below. 6 months had passed since the Mori arrived on Earth. In the garden, Mori children with their blue skin played with human children, their laughter floating up to his office. The tomatoes are growing well, Rin said beside him. The young Mori woman had become his best friend and assistant at the center. She pointed to the special plants they had created together. Who knew our farming methods would work so well with Earth plants? Hyo nodded, smiling. The Mori understood how to farm in space, using special lights and minerals. When they mixed this knowledge with Earth's farming techniques, the results were amazing. The plants grew twice as fast and needed half the water. Mars Base 2 sent another message. Hyo said, checking his tablet. The new greenhouses are working perfectly. They say we can start the first colony next year. Rin's large eyes sparkled with excitement. She had volunteered to help design the Mars colonies. The Mori knew how to build homes that could survive in space, and humans knew how to make them feel like real homes. Together, they were doing what neither could do alone. More ships arrived yesterday, Hyo told her. 2 from the Kelly people, and 1 from the Asta, all hiding from the Council, all needing help. And Earth welcomed them all, Rin said softly. She touched the window glass. My people were so scared when we came here. We thought we would be alone forever. But your world, your people. Our people now, Hyo corrected gently. He pointed to a group of teenagers in the garden. Some were human, some Mori, some from the other refugee species. They were working together, planting new trees. Look at them. They don't see different species anymore. They just see friends. His tablet beeped again. It was a message from Dr. Han Daewei. The Council sent another warning. They say we must stop taking in refugees. They threaten to cut off our whole solar system. Hyo showed the message to Rin. She read it and smiled. They still don't understand, do they? They think walls and threats can stop kindness. They don't know humans very well, Hyo agreed. Telling us we can't help people just makes us want to help more. In another part of the garden, a human teacher was showing Mori adults how to play music on Earth instruments. The Mori had no music of their own. The Council had told them they were too primitive for art, but now they were learning, creating new songs that mixed human rhythms with their own unique voice patterns. We should go help with the afternoon classes, Rin said. The new refugees will need to learn Earth languages. Hyo gathered his teaching materials. Today they would teach both Earth languages and Mori language to the new arrivals. Some of the best teachers were children. They didn't care about rules or differences. They just wanted to make new friends. As they walked downstairs, Hyo thought about how much had changed. Earth was supposed to be isolated, cut off from the galaxy. Instead, it had become a beacon of hope. Species that the Council rejected found welcome here. People the Council called primitive were creating new art, new science, new ways of living. Ready to change the galaxy? He asked Rin. She laughed. One friendship at a time. Lee Yuna stared at the message on her screen in disbelief. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood it correctly. Then she ran to find Captain Kim Suji. Captain. Yuna burst into the Phoenix's meeting room, where Suji was talking with Park Jin about their latest rescue mission. The Council. They're asking for help. Sujai looked up sharply. What? Yuna handed over her tablet. Their main farming world, Helios Prime. Their sun is acting strange. Massive solar flares, worse than anything they've seen before. Jin looked over Suji's shoulder at the data. These radiation levels, they'll destroy all the crops. Billions could starve. They have other farming worlds, Suji said. No. Yuna shook her head. Helios Prime grows 40% of their food. The other farms can't make up for that loss. And the radiation, she paused. It's exactly like what we dealt with on Mars. Everyone in the room fell silent. Earth's Mars colonies had faced similar solar flare problems last year. But thanks to the combined knowledge of human scientists and Mori farmers, they had created special shields and new types of radiation-resistant crops. We're the only ones who know how to farm through this kind of radiation, Jin said quietly. Suju stood up and walked to the window. The Phoenix was docked at Earth's new space station, where ships from 5 different refugee species now lived together in peace. Each one had been rejected or abandoned by the Council. They threatened to destroy us if we didn't stop helping refugees, she said. Now they want our help. What do we do? Yuna asked. Suji turned around. Her face was determined. Send a message to Earth Command. Then set course for Helios Prime. Just like that? Jin asked. After everything they did to us? Yes. Suji smiled. Because that's who we are. That's who we choose to be. 3 days later, the Phoenix arrived at Helios Prime. 5 other Earth ships came too, each carrying farming experts from Earth and their refugee allies. Through the ship's windows, they could see the planet's sun throwing out huge, deadly flares. The Council ships approached them cautiously. Their messages were stiff and formal, full of warnings about staying in approved areas only. They're scared of us, Yuna said, watching the Council ships. Not because we're dangerous, but because we proved them wrong. Suji nodded. Let's prove them wrong again. Jin, start sending them the shield designs. Yuna, tell our farming teams to prepare for landing. Hour by hour, Earth ships and Council ships worked side by side. The Council workers were surprised to see humans working together with the very refugees they had rejected. They were even more surprised to see how well their solutions worked. Look at their faces, Yuna said, watching through the cameras as the first radiation shields went up over the farms. They never expected us to actually help them. That's their problem, Suji replied. They see the galaxy as a place of competition and fear. We see it as a place where everyone can help each other grow. As the first day ended, the shields were working perfectly. The crops would survive. Billions would be saved from starving. Send a message to the Council leadership, Suji told Jin. Tell them this is just the beginning. Tell them we're ready to help anywhere else they need us. Sometimes, she thought, the best revenge wasn't punishment. It was showing your enemies a better way to live. Ambassador Kang Taho walked through the great doors of the Galactic Council chamber. He wasn't invited, but he didn't care. Behind him walked Captain Kim Suji, Dr. Han Dadwai, and representatives from every refugee species Earth had saved. The council members sat high above in their floating seats, looking down with angry faces. Their chamber was huge and cold, designed to make visitors feel small and afraid. "How dare you enter this chamber?" the head counselor shouted. His voice echoed off the metal walls. "Earth is forbidden to come here." Taiho smiled and stepped forward. "We're not here to ask permission," he said calmly. "We're here to show you something." He pressed a button on his wrist device. The chamber's huge screens lit up with images from Earth. They showed the Mars colonies, where humans and aliens worked together in giant greenhouses. They showed the new space stations, built with mixed technology from 6 different species. They showed schools where children of all species played and learned together. "You said we were too unpredictable," Taiho continued. "Too dangerous to join your galaxy. So we made our own way. By breaking our laws," another counselor said. "By helping species we rejected." "Yes." Sujai stepped forward. "And look what happened. Our Mars colonies grow more food than anyone thought possible. Our space stations are more advanced than yours. Our medical knowledge has doubled in 1 year." Dr. Han moved to stand beside her. "You wanted us to be alone. Instead, We built a family. Every species you rejected brought new ideas, new ways of thinking. Together, we're stronger than we ever were apart." The council members whispered to each other. Some looked angry, but others seemed interested, especially after seeing the farm technology that had saved Helios Prime. "What do you want?" the head counselor asked finally. "To join the council." Tai-Ho laughed softly. "No, we're here to tell you we're forming our own alliance, the Free Worlds Coalition. Any species can join, whether you approve or not." "You can't," a counselor shouted. "We control space travel. We control trade." "Not anymore." Tai-Ho gestured to the screens, which now showed Earth's new ships. They were beautiful, combining technology from all the refugee species. "We don't need your permission to explore. We don't need your approval to help others." "And we won't stop," Suji added. "There are more ships out there, more people you abandoned. We'll find them. We'll help them." "That's not a threat. It's a promise." The chamber erupted in angry shouts, but something unexpected happened. Some council members started asking questions. They wanted to know more about Earth's farming methods, about how different species learn to work together. "You see," Tai-Ho said to the head counselor, "your own people are curious. They want to learn. Maybe it's time for the council to learn too." As they left the chamber, Dr. Han looked back at the confused council members. "They really thought isolation would break us," he said. "They never understood that humanity's greatest strength is bringing people together." Tai-Ho nodded. "They tried to turn the galaxy's back on us. Instead, we showed the galaxy a new way forward." Outside, their ship waited to take them home. But it wasn't just Earth they were going home to anymore. They were going home to a new kind of galaxy, one where no one had to face the stars alone. Dr. Han Danwei sat in the archives room of the new Seoul Integration Center, surrounded by glowing metal books from the Mori collection. Lin, the Mori historian, worked beside him, her blue fingers tracing the strange symbols on the pages. "Look at this," Lin said suddenly. Her voice was excited. "These are records from before the council found us. There were other ships that passed near our world, other species who wanted to trade with us." Daewei leaned closer. "What happened to them?" "The council made them stay away." Lin's large eyes were sad. "They told everyone we were dangerous, just like they did to Earth." Daewei pulled out his tablet and added this information to their growing list. For 2 weeks, they had been gathering stories from all the refugee species. A pattern was emerging, and it was not a pretty one. "Captain Kim is here," a voice called from the door. Suji walked in, followed by representatives from the Keeley and Asta peoples. They all carried their own records, their own stories. "Show them what we found," Daewei said to Lin. Lin pressed her hands to one of the metal books, and a hologram appeared above it. It showed a map of the galaxy, but not like any map they had seen before. This one was older than the council itself. "There used to be trading routes everywhere," Lin explained. "Hundreds of species meeting, sharing, growing together. Then the council took control. They said they were bringing order. Instead, they brought walls. They didn't just isolate Earth," Suji said slowly. "They've been doing this for thousands of years, keeping species apart, calling some primitive, others unpredictable." The Keeley representative, a tall being with crystal-like skin, stepped forward. "In our oldest stories, we traveled among the stars freely. Then the council came. They said we were too different, too strange for others to accept." "Same with us," the Asta added. Their feathered head moved in anger. "They said our ideas about sharing resources would disrupt their order." Daewei typed faster, recording everything. "But why? Why keep everyone apart?" "Control," Lin said simply. "Together, we're stronger than them. Apart, we're easy to rule." Suji walked to the window. Outside, ships from Earth and all the refugee species moved through space together, their different designs making a beautiful pattern against the stars. "We need to share this," she said, "not just with our people, but with everyone. Even the species still under Council control. It will be dangerous, Dawai warned. The Council will try to stop us. Let them try. Sujui smiled. They couldn't keep us isolated. They couldn't stop us from helping others. And they can't hide the truth anymore. Lin closed her metal book gently. My people have a saying. Truth is like starlight. You can hide it for a while, but it always finds a way to shine. Dawai looked at his tablet, at the hundreds of stories they had collected. Stories of separation, of isolation, but also of hope, of species reaching out to each other despite all the barriers. The Council thought they were writing the story of the galaxy, he said, but they forgot something important. What's that? Suji asked. The best stories are written together. Dawai stood up. And we're just getting started with ours. Captain Kim Sujai stood on the bridge of the newest Earth ship, the Unity. It was bigger than the Phoenix, built with technology from all the refugee species. Its silver hull gleamed in the starlight. Final checks complete, Park Jin said from his engineer station. After all these years, he still worked at her side. We're ready for the jump. Sujai looked at her crew. Some were human, some Mori, some Kili, some Asta. They all wore the new uniform of the Free Worlds Coalition. Dark blue with a pattern of connected stars on the shoulder. Remember, she said, this is a diplomatic mission. We're going to meet the Terran people. The Council told them they were too emotional to join galactic society. Like they told us we were too unpredictable. Li Yuna asked with a smile. She was their medical officer, but now she also served as a diplomat. Exactly. Suju pressed a button, and a map appeared in the air. The Terran have been isolated for 300 years, but they never stopped watching the stars, never stopped hoping. The Unity moved smoothly into jump position. They had found the Terran signal 2 weeks ago, hidden beneath layers of Council communication. It was a simple message. Is anyone out there? Ambassador Kang reports the Council ships are staying in their own space, Jin said. They're not happy, but they're not stopping us either. Suji nodded. The Council had learned its lesson after trying to stop the first Free Worlds aid mission. Now they just watched and waited, probably wondering what Earth would do next. Jump in 3, 2, 1. The stars blurred around them as the Unity leaped through space. When they came out, a beautiful green planet hung before them. Small ships circled it. The Terran space fleet, built in secret over centuries. They're hailing us, Yuna said. Suji took a deep breath. Open the channel. A Terran face appeared on the screen. They looked like glowing crystals shaped into human form. Their voice was full of music when they spoke. You really came, the Terran said. When we got your message about the Free Worlds Coalition, we hardly dared believe it. We came, Suji said, because no one should face the stars alone. Earth learned that lesson the hard way. Now we share it with everyone we can. The Terran leader's light pulsed with joy. The Council told us our emotions made us dangerous, that no one would want to work with us. The Council was wrong, Suji replied. Your emotions make you strong. They make you kind. They make you exactly the kind of people we want as friends. Over the next few days, the Unity's crew met with the Terran people. They shared stories, technology, and hopes for the future. The Terrans' emotional nature hadn't made them weak. It had helped them survive their isolation with their spirit unbroken. Send a message to Earth, Suju told Jin on their last day. Tell them to prepare for Terran visitors. And she smiled. Tell them to get ready for more. The Terran know of other isolated species out there, other friends we haven't met yet. As the Unity prepared to return home, Sujai looked at her mixed crew working together. The Council had tried to write a story of separation and fear, but humanity had chosen to write a different story, one of unity, hope, and endless possibilities. The galaxy had turned its back on them once. Now it was turning toward a brighter future, one star, one species, one friendship at a time.